Welcome to the Hair of the Dog podcast. In today's episode, I am diving into a phobia that I have that, well, not many people know that I have. And more importantly, I'm sharing a step that I took to help to get over it and move on with my life, doing all the things that I want to do. Anyway, you're not going to want to miss this episode. It's me and Heather. She is going to help sort this out for me. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Hair of the Dog podcast. If you're a pet photographer ready to make more money and start living a life by your design, you've come to the right place. And now, your host, pet photographer, travel addict, chocolate martini connoisseur, Nicole Begley.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Hair of the Dog podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Begley, and today I have one of our favorite guests back, except we're not doing this virtually. She is right here in the flesh, in my house. Heather Lahtinen, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, not only on the podcast, but for hosting me in your home. I am physically in your home, and I could not be happier. This is like the best vacation of my life. It's a work vacation, but we hang out, we talk, we eat good food, we go out on the lake, and we get stuff done.
Yeah.
Therefore, I have decided that I need to come here at least once per year, if not twice per year. So we're going to make that happen.
Well, yeah, I think we should do once per year here and then once per year remote somewhere.
Oh,
fun.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds great.
Well, and I do want to say that you are very special because there's not just anybody I would let into my house this week, because this is the first time my daughter will be 15 this week. This is the first time I've been home in my house alone. Just me and the animals.
Right.
15 years, Heather.
That's a long time. And I take this responsibility very seriously, because if I were in your shoes, I would absolutely want to be alone. I wouldn't want anyone bothering me. I would just want to get some work done. But we work so well together because, well, we just like to work nonstop. So hopefully I didn't hinder your productivity.
No, it's been awesome. It's been awesome. So we figured since we're here, we're together, we should record a podcast episode or two. And actually, this one might be a little bit quicker because I just wanted to talk about something that I think I've made a big progress over. I'm not going to say I'm overcome it yet, but I have made a big step forward. And that is, you guys might be surprised by this, but I'm actually, I'm not a white knuckle flyer, but I would be fine to not actually fly, but getting to somewhere is so reinforcing that therefore I get in my uncomfortable space and will still fly. But if anything is out of the ordinary, I don't like it.
I'm actually shocked by this. You shared this with me yesterday, and I looked at you as if you had three heads, and I said, wait, what? You have a fear of flying? Are you kidding? I did not know that about you.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. And so it's I don't know, nothing traumatic has happened, but I think it stems from you are completely out of control. Like you have no control in the outcome of the situation. You are just a passenger on this tube flying through the air. You have no idea if the situation is within normal limits up front, or if they're freaking out, or what is happening, and there's nothing you can do to fix the situation should it go sideways.
Okay, but I have to question you on this. Isn't that true of life?
Yeah.
There's a lot of life where you have no control.
That's true, but you're in your life so often. And I know the statistics. I mean, it's way more dangerous for me to drive to the barn like this morning. But I don't know. There's something about being like 35,000 feet in the air and being out of control then.
That combination?
Yes.
That does it for you.
In a metal tube.
Okay, so how did you, first of all your life?
Like, if the plane ride is totally smooth and there's no turbulence and there's no 30-mile-per-hour crosswinds, I'm like, whatever, this is cool. And I can actually, once we're up and we're cruising and I'm looking down, I'm like, oh, it's super peaceful. Like, and I actually feel inspired, like working on a plane. Like, I love it because I think of what I have equated being on a plane to, which is freedom and travel and even work travel, which I love. And so all these things that I love are on the other side of a plane ride.
Right.
So there's been a lot of positive reinforcement pairing onto that particular outcome. But Well, and then on the other side of it too, like I'm kind of obsessed with the aviation industry. Like I love planes.
I do too.
Like
fascinating.
Yeah. We're actually over a flight path or under a flight path, for when the planes are landing going south at Charlotte, depending on how many planes they have backed up. Sometimes they fly right over our house. I learn all this because my brother's a pilot for American out of Charlotte. So he tells me all the things like, yeah, fly over your house all the time. But anyway, they start coming in like kind of low and slow. And you're just like, oh, I wonder where that plane's coming from. Oh, that's a big one. Oh, that's a little one. Oh, that's a this, that's a that. And I don't know. It's fascinating. Every time there's a plane in the sky, I have to stop and like look at it and kind of marvel at it for a moment. The fear of flying, I think, it's always when there's these weird things, it's like, oh, that's a lot of turbulence. That seems stressful. But I had this reoccurring dream of being on a flight and you're sitting at the window seat, which is where I like to sit. And the plane, when they bank and they're turning and you're like looking straight out your window, but it's down towards the ground. We're doing that, but it's getting closer and closer and closer to the ground. So it's basically in this like death spiral down to the ground. And I realize, oh, all right, I guess it's over. And I'm super peaceful in my dream. And I always wake up before we actually hit the ground. But then, I start to think, oh, is this a premonition? Like, should I be nervous about flying? Because that's pretty stressful. And, yeah.
I don't know. Or just a manifestation of the fear.
Maybe. And I think it is, too, because your subconscious mind takes things that you are, like, that you know. So, like, somebody else might have a reoccurring dream that means absolutely nothing to do with transportation, but they have another main, like, that's the main character, kind of, even though it has actually nothing to do with that.
Oh, right. It could mean something totally different.
Right.
This could be something about a fear you have in your business or with money or, who knows?
Yeah. Right.
But it's just manifesting in something that you know, something that's familiar and seems fairly straightforward, like if the plane crashes, I die.
Yeah, right.
That's it. But that's interesting you use the word premonition. I was listening to a podcast recently, one of these docuseries on a gentleman who at the age of 19 had two very vivid dreams. And in the dreams, in one of the dreams, it was the same night. In the first dream, he was in this very remote location with mountains. And he had this dream that they came around a bend. They saw these certain trees. Okay, whatever. And then in the next dream, it was very clearly shown to him that he was going to die at the age of 52.
Oh.
So the number 52 kept coming. So he's 19. So the number 52 kept coming up and it was like repeated in the dream as when he would die. Okay, he woke up, he didn't think anything of it until 3 or 4 years later. He's on this adventure something in Alaska with a guide. And they hit this corner in this glacier and he said, I've been here. And it was his exact dream from when he was 19.
Wow.
So when that happened, he thought, well, the rest of the dream was I died at 52. So this was in his 20s. He's like, I'm going to die at 52. I am almost convinced, like 100% certain it's going to happen. So I forget what podcast this was on. He was being interviewed and he was at the time 50 or 51. And he had not told a single person his entire life about these dreams. He has a wife, he has children. He just didn't want to worry them. Right. Because what if it's just one of these random dreams? And they followed up with him. And last I heard, he was 52 and still alive.
Yeah.
But I'm actually following this story because are you prophesying about the future?
Yeah.
Is it a premonition or is it just a random dream?
Right. Well, and then I would like to take it another step forward. If you start to tell yourself for 30 years that is what's going to happen to you, then are you kind of calling that into existence?
100% yes. I thought the same thing. I thought if this guy wasn't going to die at 52, he probably is because he's speaking it into existence.
Right.
Meaning some accident is going to happen and it's going to be like, see? He'll be dead. But it would just prove to him that it was true.
Yeah.
It's the whole story is just a trip. I actually need to look him up because I think he's turning 53 soon. He was convinced he was either going to die his 51st year into his 52nd or right around 52. Yeah. So anyway, I'll look it up and report back. But interesting how we think these dreams. I always want to assign meaning to dreams. Everything. Right. You want to make sense of it. So the death spiral in the plane, the obvious answer is I'm going to die in a plane crash.
Right.
But because we know that's not how the subconscious works, it actually can't be that.
Right.
It has to be something else.
Right.
Which we have not uncovered because we've been talking about this for the past day, but.
It also, another kind of differentiator too is if you are like getting on something, like getting on the plane, for instance, and like this manifests for me before, especially a big flight, especially if I'm flying by myself, because then I'm like, well, my family can't live without me, but if we're all together, at least we all die together. So terrible. And then I just worry about the animals. I can't really take my horse on the plane, especially now that we have two. But anyway, one of the ways to kind of differentiate is whether this is like kind of a fear phobia, like conscious mind versus like a deeper message, is if there is like tightness in your chest and you're getting those actual fear stress responses, like it's not a premonition. Like premonitions are, you know, it's just like, oh, I mean, it sounds like that guy, but that was a dream. I think dreams are, like we said, a whole different animal. But like if you're nervous about getting on a plane and you're about to get on, you're like, oh, heart's beating fast. Oh, this must mean I had this bad thought, blah, blah, blah. You know, I'm out. Usually just our fear.
It's just a straight up fear, which makes sense. I mean, a lot of people have a fear of flying, a fear of heights. These are, I think, normal human fears because of the control issue.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, you know, as we bring this around to business and the fear of starting a business, getting clients, you know, your pricing, sales, raising your price, is a lot of people will say directly to your face, Nicole, I'm afraid to charge that. And that is probably true. There's probably a component of, yes, I'm afraid to charge that. But and then there's like this, you know, am I worth it? And value and confidence and all of those things. I actually believe that there is probably something deeper there that we would have to really talk through to uncover. Yes, it's fear of rejection for sure. Everyone has that to some degree. Some work through it, some don't, right? But do you think that it could actually be a fear that is seemingly so different or unrelated that is manifesting as a fear around pricing? I mean, there's probably multiple angles.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, it could be, yeah.
I mean, the rejection is the obvious one, but and
I think it comes down to, at least for pricing and sales, I think most of the fears stem from how are people perceiving me and how are they going to judge me? And, you know, we've talked about so many money stories on this podcast that those money beliefs that you have, like this is superfluous. I used to not be able to say that word, you know, or this is like, you know, bougie or extra and this or that. And, you know, how can I ask people to spend this much money? They just want pictures of their dog. Well, they could take a picture of their dog with their cell phone.
Right.
Like you're providing a whole different level of service that deserves to be compensated for, and the amount of time and effort that you've put into learning how to perfect your craft also deserves to be compensated for. But yeah, I think it all stems to, are people going to judge me? Are they going to kick me out of the tribe and therefore I'm going to die?
Right, I'll starve and die and never be accepted again. So when people come to me and say that they're stuck, I will usually ask, what's the challenge you are facing? And then they might describe raising their prices or putting themselves out there. And I'll say, okay, what's the fear? And sometimes they know it, and sometimes they don't, and it takes a minute. But if you can name the fear and say, okay, I have this fear of rejection or judgment, but you can't stop
Which is really rejection, the judgment that would lead to rejection. It's all rejection,
right, in that regard. So if you can name that and say, okay, it's a fear of rejection, it's a fear of judgment, a lot of people just stop there. And they're like, yes, that's what I fear. My next question is, can you be okay with that?
Right.
Can you be okay? Is it more important for you to not fly or to get to your incredible destination? Yeah. So for you see the value at the end. So I will ask someone, oh, you want to leave your job? You want to make money in pet photography? Yeah. Okay, is that more important to you than protecting your ego?
Right.
Whoa. Okay. Because what you're doing is playing safe to protect your ego from your feelings getting hurt, which I'm not making light of. It's very serious. But what's more important to you? To stay safe, small, protected, and miserable in your corporate job? Is that more important to you? Or is following your dream, pursuing your passion, delivering an incredible service? So then if you look at those two things, of course, Heather, of course, I want to follow my dream. Okay. Can you be okay with the possibility or the potential of being rejected? Yep. Because if you can answer yes to that, you can free yourself up and let go to some degree, or at least enough, of that fear to move forward.
Yep. which is exactly what I did when we were in Italy just a couple weeks ago. And, part of this is I know too much. So I'm looking and I'm like, man, flying to United, a Boeing 767. I'm like, God, all the other airlines retired that plane. I didn't know anyone's still flying that. It's like one of those old ones where you went in to use the bathroom and they still have the ashtray in the bathroom. I'm like, how many decades has smoking not been allowed on planes? I think almost my whole entire lifetime. So anyways, I'm like, oh God, this is an old plane. Which again, you look at the statistics, I don't even think that plane's ever crashed.
Right.
Like it's a super safe airline. Right. Or super safe airplane. And then we were flying a regional jet from Newark to Charlotte, which again, super safe, but slightly more skittish and uncomfortable in the air because they move around a bit more. But anyway, and like it was like our last day in Italy, and I'm just like, I can feel the stress in my just chest of just like, oh, I gotta take this flight. Oh, it's a long flight. It's over a lot of ocean. There's no place to land.
The ocean, yes.
And then it occurred to me, it was like, all right. So say I did find out that like, oh yeah, that dream actually will happen. But you don't know when.
Right.
You don't know when. It could be when you're like 95.
Oh, right.
Would I want to live my whole entire life never getting on a plane again? And the answer unequivocally was hell no.
That's a great question to ask yourself. Mm-hmm. Would I want to live staying in Charlotte or within driving distance of wherever I could go? But that's a great question. If you ask yourself, am I okay? Because here's the thing. You will always regret not taking action, but you will never regret taking the action. Did I say that right? Yeah. You will not.
I mean, unless your plane actually does crash, then you might regret it for a minute. But
you really wouldn't know. I mean, I think it would be over so quickly. It would be just like done.
But it really, truly did help because I came home from Italy and I was only home for a week. And then I was flying out to Montana for a mastermind meeting of other online business owners. And the night before I left, I checked the weather real quick. And I saw a high wind warning in Bozeman the next day. And I'm like, I don't want to land in a high wind warning. And so then, again, too much information. I start digging. I'm like, how much? And then I find like the website that tells you the actual like field conditions at the airport and which direction I'm looking up. Okay, this runway is 20R, which is 280. Like
Are you serious right now?
I am. So I'm like, oh, this is not going to be. I'm like, I hope this is like east-west facing runway. Oh no, it's north-south. So I start to get in my head.
What in the world is happening? Are you insane? Why would you do that? Why would you look it up?
Well, I just looked at the weather, and this is how my mind snowballed.
No. So, okay, if you look at the weather to determine, do I need a jacket, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's fair. Look at the temperature. But
it had the big thing when you go to the Weather Channel when there's a weather situation. It's like flashing, merp, 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 and it said high wind warning.
Maybe you should have just asked your husband, hey, tell me what the temperature is tomorrow.
Maybe I'll do that next time. Right. Maybe I'll do that next time. Although, truly, and then I'm like, how high of a crosswind can planes land in? Blah, blah, blah.
My word.
And so then I'm reading like how the pilots actually do, and they have to put down the... Anyway, like I said, I'm super fascinated by it all, but almost to a fault. But you would be so proud of me because I was like, all right, well, I made the decision to go to this.
Right, you can't not go.
Like I'm going. Like planes land in freaking Bozeman all the time, and planes are going to be landing in these conditions all day long. All day.
I've actually not heard of a plane crash in Bozeman.
Yeah, well,
so yeah, right.
But anyway, I'm like, they'll be landing here all day, and if it's not safe, then we'll go land somewhere else.
Right. They know what they can do.
Yeah, exactly. And so anyway, so we're on the plane, and it's a little bit delayed, and, they had some other FAA timeout for the crew thing, whatever. So we finally got going, and the pilot's like, all right, weather conditions in Bozeman. Oh, man, I don't want to jinx it. I mean, we're going to try to get you guys on the ground there, but the winds are, and I'm like, oh, God, okay, we'll see.
You should not have said that. Not with you there.
So it's like, all right, well, I mean, doors are shut. Here we go. We're in the air now. And then it was a little rocky and rolly landing. And I was cool as a cucumber. I was like, whatever, I got this. It is what it is. I'm just going to get bumped around a bit, but like it is still safe.
It will be okay.
Yeah, it will be okay.
I think it's okay to have that reaction of being fearful. I landed in some pretty strong crosswinds a couple years ago where I thought we were for sure going to die. And sitting next to me was a flight attendant who was traveling back to Pittsburgh, and so she was not on duty. And she was asleep. And she finally kind of opened her eyes, and I looked at her and I said, "Are you for real?" And she laughed and she said, "This is nothing." I said, "This is not nothing. This is a hurricane, okay?" And she laughed and she said, "No, there's strong winds for sure.
Yeah.
But no, it's not a big deal at all." And I thought, okay, so, it's not that you need to get rid of the fear completely, because I don't think that's normal.
Right.
Like,
You're still going to be out of control, and there's still going to be a portion of you that's like, oh man.
Right.
Like,
this
is scary.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what's happening here, and it's out of my control.
But I tell myself in those situations, like, one way or the other, we're going to be on the ground in a couple minutes.
It's true.
Because we were very
like,
close.
Like, stuff always comes down.
Yeah, and I thought, he's going a little fast. He's coming in hot. He's a little high. He's a little low,
Yeah.
and I know nothing. But you land and then but your heart is racing. Yeah. I think that is a normal human reaction to a situation that feels like death.
True. And also, just PSA for all of you guys out there that end up landing in a crosswind situation, the pilots put the plane down really freaking fast and hard so that a gust of wind doesn't come and, like, tip a wing into the ground.
Yes.
So you're like, man, that was a hard landing. That was on purpose.
Right. I also watch air disasters.
Well, see, I don't do that.
But the funny thing is, every time I watch it, I actually feel better about flying because every incident that happens makes it safer.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, people obviously lose their lives. But, some weird thing happens and they're like, oh, they fix it. That will never happen again. There have been crashes that have been pilot error, but...
Far and few between.
Correct.
Yeah.
Like, for the most part, except it was Boeing a couple years ago. What was that?
No,
the Max.
Yeah.
The Max. That was having all of those troubles, literally kept crashing. Wow. Oh, there were two, right? Two.
Yeah.
But that's enough because that means it kept crashing. And they pulled it. Didn't they pull that one? Or they were
they grounded it for a while and they fixed the software and they told the pilots that system existed.
Well, that would be helpful. That's right. We watched the documentary on, they told the pilot.
Yeah. Well, my litmus test is always when it's like certain low-cost airline or this or that or, anything. And like when the Max came back, I asked my brother, I'm like, can I fly in the Max? Is it safe? He's like, yeah. And he sometimes he asks too, like, a U.S. airline? Yeah, you're fine. like there definitely is.
There are some countries I may not fly in.
And it comes down to, it comes down to training, and there's a lot of parts of the world where their pilots just memorize stuff, but they don't actually understand the principles of flight and how to manage this large machine in the air should things go wrong.
Yes. You know what my favorite pilots are? Like the old Vietnam vets. The old guys flying. Recently, last year, I think I was coming here. I was flying and the pilot came out and he was a literal baby. Okay. I thought this kid is so young. I'm like, where's the old guy? I want
Sully.
I mean, where's the one who was in the military or has seen combat? That's the guy I want.
Or Tom Hanks. I want Tom Hanks.
Or Sully. Yeah, right. Yeah, that guy. Oh my gosh, that's a good story too. So you can actually survive plane crashes. It does happen,
for sure.
Although it's a little bit rare. Usually, it's either everybody lives or everybody dies, is what it seems to me. That's what happens.
I don't think we're instilling confidence for anyone right now.
Okay, the bottom line is you faced your fear and and
I asked myself a different question about it.
You asked yourself a different question, but was it because you were like, okay, this has gone on long enough. I need to...
Well, and it was truly... I mean, I know the statistics. Again, like I said, like it is way more dangerous for me to hop in the car and go to the grocery store or get on the highway than it is to fly anywhere in the world, even on questionable airlines. Like,
true.
It's still safer than driving anywhere, hands down. But because we drive so often, that fear has been like the flight attendant.
Yes.
She flies all the freaking time.
Yes.
So when they're like, she's like, it takes a lot to rattle me now. Whereas somebody that's flown like once in their life, they're like, what's this? What's that?
Exposure therapy.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, they've been exposed to it, so they've inoculated themselves against the fear. But I think the biggest lesson here is to ask yourself a better question. Mm-hmm. How can I reframe the question? And am I actually following through on the train of thought instead of just saying, yeah, I have this fear of rejection and I don't like to be judged, period. It's just the way it is, Heather. That's what people say. It's just the way it is. Okay. fair enough. Could we ask a better question or follow that out? What if somebody says no to you? What if they do what if they talk about you? What if they reject you? Can you be okay with the potential of that maybe happening? Because it might not.
Yeah. And I would then take it a step further. Can you be okay with that? And can you weigh that particular outcome with the opposite, which is you never following your dream?
Right. Weigh it.
Which one, like, am I going to be when I'm, 95 and my time on this earth is coming to a close? Am I going to be okay with like, oh, I really wish I did that, but good thing I stayed safe so nobody judged me.
Good thing I stayed safe.
Because that really matters now.
I mean, our thing is like, did you die? Are you going to die? Okay, the airplane thing. Okay, that's stupid. Okay, but in the case of your pricing and rejection, did you die? Would you? No. Could it hurt your feelings? Sure. Okay, that's fine. Can you be okay with that? You will never regret taking action. Mm-hmm. You will never regret at least trying, because then you know.
Yep.
And then here's the thing. If it happens, if you do get rejected and you live through it, which you will, it will instill more confidence in you. Mm-hmm. And you'll think, okay, that wasn't as bad as I thought. Yep. Even if it did sting, I could do that again. And it emboldens you. Mm-hmm. So I would argue you need to take the action. And if you do get rejected, I would say good. Yeah. Because you learned, exposure therapy. Now I know that I can face. It reminds me of the first several wedding seasons I had in Pittsburgh. I was actually very lucky with beautiful weather for many, many weddings. So much to the point where I had this unnatural fear of rain because I had never shot in it. Uh-huh. And obviously,
and you live in Pittsburgh. It's going to happen.
It's going to happen. And the longer this went on, the more this fear just built up in me until one point. I mean, I'm talking, it was probably 3 or 4 years in. It poured down rain on a wedding and a good friend of mine, and it turned out great. And the wedding photos were fine, and I survived it. And guess what? That fear was gone. Mm-hmm. And now it was like, okay, sun, rain, I know I can handle it. Yep. But I had to go through it, which was not pleasant. Yep. I actually had one of my Canon cameras shut down at that wedding, stop working because of a lightning strike. There was some sort of I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Lightning struck like very near the church. Uh-huh. I mean, well, boom, like the whole church shook. And my second shooter came down from the balcony and said this camera just like bit the dust. Isn't that crazy? We just send it in and get it fixed. Yeah. But anyway, expose yourself to it. It might not be as bad as you think. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Such good advice. All right, everybody. We just wanted to share that quick little insight for you, and hopefully it inspires you to take some action. Please let us know. At Nicole Begley Official on Instagram. Heather, where can they find you?
They can find me at Flourish Academy and let me know what is the fear.
Yeah.
What is the fear and how can we help you work through it?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Bye, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Hair of the Dog podcast. This was episode number 155. If you want to check out the show notes for access to any of the resources that we mentioned, simply go to www.hairofthedogacademy.com/155.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Hair of the Dog Podcast. If you enjoyed this show, please take a minute to leave a review. And while you're there, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our upcoming episodes. One last thing, if you are ready to dive into more resources, head over to our website at www.hairofthedogacademy.com.